Well, folks, another great opportunity to check in with 35th District Representative Dan Griffey. Good morning, Dan. How you doing?
Good morning, Jeff. I'm wonderful. How are you? It's kind of
I'm,
cold, but
yeah, it
the
is kind of
sun's
chilly.
beautiful.
It makes for nice afternoons,
It does.
crisp and clear. Before
Yeah.
we got started, we recording here, we were just talking about the benefits of being so close to the Capitol for you and Representative Couture and Senator McEwen. You guys have an opportunity to head home after a hard day's work most nights, unless there's an
Yeah.
overnight session. But it
Yeah.
really gives you a good opportunity to feel the pulse of the community if you're at a store or you stop in to get some gas and somebody else is there, they recognize you, and I'm sure more often than not you are pulled, not pulled like unwillingly, but pulled into
Yeah.
a conversation about what's going on. Tell me a little bit about the benefits to being able to be on the ground and face to face with with the people you represent.
Oh, I mean, it's a great home field advantage. I live almost in the perfect spot. It's an hour commute, so it's too short to be long and too long to be short, right? I mean, on
Hmm.
those long nights I told you about, it was kind of fun romanticizing years and years ago when I appeared on the radio station. One morning, we got off here at 5:30, and I got in the rig and drove, as quickly as I could safely over to Shelton, down to Shelton, and met with you guys, was videotaped, went to the fire station that I worked at, took a shower, and then got dressed again and went back for another whole day. So it was about 48 total hours we were awake. Um,
How do you think that helps keep you kind of grounded, I guess, or just really in the pulse of who you represent, whereas, you can be siloed if you're staying in Olympia for the duration of the session.
Well, I mean, I can talk to people like you said when I'm filling up with gas. Hey, Representative, did you hear about this? It's usually negative, but the solutions to the problem, accurately identifying what the problem is and deploying resources to fix it, usually takes on the ground knowledge, and I find it invaluable. And again, it's a great home field advantage. Some legislators don't go home at all during the session because it's 7 hours away. There are we live in a great, and it's a giant state, right?
Yeah.
And there's places where it takes a long time to get there.
Especially
Uh,
in the winter if there's any issues over the passes or any things like that.
Yeah, many times some of my Eastern Washington colleagues will want to go home, but well, they're doing avalanche control, so they'll have to wait for 4.5 hours. Is it worth it anymore? And a lot of times they turn around and go home, or they take one of the puddle jumper commuters, back and forth, which gets quite expensive.
Sure.
I'm not gonna lie, I got a great, I live in a great place to serve here in Olympia, and it serves, I think, the district well.
So one of the things, and you were just mentioning this, a lot of the kind of issues that you hear about come from the ground up, and it helps too because I know as you move up in the legislative system, and when it comes to bills that could potentially become law, fewer and fewer of those ground level issues kind of hit the radar of many people. We may in the 35th be talking about, well, I believe there's some school districts today actually that are having some elections and things like that. So when it comes to the levy and things like this, you may not necessarily hear those issues because they don't quite bubble up to the top where the whole state is got to focus on that. So how do you then remind people, or how do you bring those super local initiatives or ideas to kind of that bigger populace?
Well, I think my core belief system has always been, I've always told you that my job is to elevate the voices of my constituency. And so we hear this, right? I mean, I guarantee you, Representative Couture and I know that there are several funding levy measures on the ballot. We hear about it. We talk to all of them that are the deciders on the budget about why MSOC, for example, is so important, why fully funding special education in our school systems. We mandate that they be fully integrated, those with special needs. We mandate the schools do it, so we need to fund them for it. We elevate those. We usually speak in the voice of the person that wrote the email or the person that we saw on the street. Like I said, best home field advantage is to be able to go home every night.
We had the big old Super Bowl this past weekend, and I was talking to Senator McEwen about this, but there were a couple of ads. I don't know if you saw them or not, but they were ads that were talking about the Washington state budget. And you kind of think, oh, these ads cost gazillion dollars and they're all national ads. So when you see a local, it really kind of piques your interest. And again, it was what you and I and Representative Couture have been talking about over these last couple of weeks. It's while the state continues to bring in large amounts of revenue, upwards of $10 billion or so, the spending is outpacing that still,
Sure
causing a
is.
major deficit, not only just with the capital and the budgets that circulate through Olympia, but then that trickles down to the different school districts, to the different counties and cities across the state. What are some of the things you mentioned, fully funding for special ed, perhaps, and ways that we can make sure that those students get the full benefit of the education system? But, where are you guys looking at potential changes and fixes to help help right this ship a little bit better?
Well, I mean, my pet peeve is we got to figure out this bureaucracy. Just for example, I had a great meeting with Thurston County delegation, the Economic Development Council, some friends of ours that used to work in Shelton, right?
Yeah.
Longtime friends. And they needed some help. They want to breach the dam here at Capitol Lake. I saw the cost. It was $25 million. And I said, well, is that going to complete the project? Oh, no, 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 wait, that's to finish the study and the permitting involved. Jeff, we have got to find out why the heck it costs $25 million to study and permit projects like that. We waste incredible amounts of money. When they were talking about off silting, right? So the same bay, you move out into the bay. Well, there's a silting problem, right? And because at any time a river flows into anything, it'll deposit the heavier material, right? Um, the Army Corps of Engineers is supposed to dredge that to keep the navigable waterways open because we have container ships there. Um, they won't do it because they don't want to contaminate the water. Jeff, something's got to give. So then they asked for $3.5 million to study if the port could be the ones to do it. We can't waste our money this way any longer, Jeff. We need to actually be spending our money on completing the projects. We're looking at those measures. We're also looking at the latest programs that have not come online yet, um, seeing if we could delay bringing those online until the revenue growth reaches it. But the core basic functions or priorities of government, public safety, public school system, and our transportation system should be kind of the rock bottom, the bedrock, and we should build from that. That is the priorities that we are looking at to bring into this budget discussion negotiations. The new governor is interested in that perspective. It's not the first time we've done it. Under Governor Locke, we had established a priorities of government model, and it served us well. I think that's where we're going to go again, understanding that the fixed costs of our school system are, they're not going to get any better, any quicker, really quick. So we have got to step up the plate, like I said, on the MSOC and the special education.
So I mean, you've been in Olympia for a few years now. So when it comes to these study sessions or studying this issue, like you said, $3 million or $25 million just to finish the the paperwork essentially before you even bring any sort of equipment into this Capitol Lake example. Where, again, I guess we were just asking why, but why and where do these funds go? And what are some of the ways to, is it like there's the person and they've got six assistants that are helping them, or where is this money going? Because, if I was to study something here in the old family budget, or the family wants to do, I want to do a project, it's going to take me an afternoon to kind of look at it and figure out if I need a permit or not, and then you do it or not. Not with that, notwithstanding that there may be environmental impacts down the line that are unforeseen, but it just seems to me that that's a lot of, and I'm going to bring up another example. There's been, studies that have been done in the city of Shelton to make beautification or things like that. And then those studies just get put up on a shelf and they collect dust, and nothing has come of that. There's no actual outcome other than a binder that's got some papers in it.
Well, I mean, I want to be action driven, Jeff. You just described an action driven. You described that your family needed something. You spent some time researching it and you deployed resources and you get it done. So we need to move to that model. We are addicted to bureaucracy here. So the study is one environmental group, then another environmental group. It's basically making all the environmental groups happy by buying them, right? You're paying them money. And then if we're going to do that, I guarantee the project will have environmental mitigation concerns. So not only would they would identify during that $25 million study period the impacts that they will have on the environment. I'm sure they'll be negative. And since there'll be negative impacts, they'll have to spend about $25 million somewhere else mitigating a problem. Now, the same problem that we have with had in Oakland Bay, where we had to cap and cover and restore, they have the same problem in the bay here in Olympia, and there is some dioxin and the same sort of things, same sort of mill structure, the same
Yeah.
contamination that we had for Shelton. So they're going to have to do something about it. But here they're choosing a totally different option. They want to dredge. So we did cap and cover so you didn't stir it all up. Well, if they dredge, then there is going to be another group out there that says, well, wait a minute, dredging's going to stir up all the stuff, so you can't do that. So it will delay it. Then they will go to court for several years. Um, and then my thought process is, why don't we dredge Capitol Lake? Why don't we leave the dam in place? Then we won't have all the off-silting. But then you run into arguments where the tribes are like, I need it wide open. We need to make sure there's no barrier to the fish. It's just we can't get out of our own way. What we've got to do is we have got to say, this is the direction we're going. We're just going to go there. But it's totally the bureaucracy of the thing. Um, and again, we got to get on top of it. And
Is that
I'm not
also
seeing it
to
slowing.
is that also to people on, well, let's just say the extremes of either side feeling like they're being either left out of the conversation or they're not being heard, where you need some more kind of middle of the ground centrist um, governing body that doesn't have to, and we talk about this more on a national level, I suppose, but the far sides of both parties that are dictating through primary process and things like that who gets in, and then they're like, hey, we got you in, now you better toe the line. And like kind of what we said about Governor Ferguson's State of the State, where he maybe struck a little more centrist tone, and it kind of put off some of his in the further sides of his party. And you guys on the right side of the aisle were like, hey, there might be some things to work on here.
Yeah, we've been talking about this thing for 11 years. We got somebody in the majority party that's listening. I mean,
Yeah.
that helps. I mean, Jeff, I think a clearinghouse arbitration panel, bipartisan arbitration panel could fix this. And that their decisions would be final, because it's in the interest of moving the public good forward. We cannot no longer have these boat anchors just stopping the public good. And those are some of the ideas that I have. I'm going to recommend the idea to the new governor. I also want the new governor to change the way he appoints judicial officers. The last governor has appointed 82% of the sitting judges. Excuse me, I said governors, didn't I? Judges. Um, the judicial branch is so important in Washington State. You can't have one man controlling uh, the direction. And domestic violence, sexual assault survivors are just saying we just do not feel like we're being heard in court. Access to anyway. I know I digress a bit, but we would like to see a system where the governor is more deliberative in everything he does. If it is in the best interest of the citizens and the public good, there should be an arbitration panel, bipartisan, that is the final decider, and we just move forward. Damn the torpedo sort of thing.
Yeah, kind of
We
like a city council versus the strong mayor or, whatever they have in Shelton
Yeah,
here.
I think that could get rid of some of the bureaucracy that we have here. But again, we got to get on top of it.
Hmm.
It's just ridiculous to spend so much money and not even even you draw the plans.
Yeah.
You're going to study how you're going to draw the plans for $25 million. It's just infuriating. And again, it's just examples, and those examples are spread throughout the state of Washington. And what I want to do is, and what most people want is to not think about government so dang much, just to be able to live their lives, not to be taxed too much, not to have fuel and those sort of things to get back and forth to work cost too much, have some say in how their kids' education's going to go,
Yeah,
not
what's
be
going on?
told,
What's going on with that here in the House side? We heard some stuff from the Senate Majority Leader this last week, and Senator McEwen and I talked about that a little bit. But any new um, things happening in the education
well,
world in the House?
both sides are digging in, and they're digging their heels in. Jeff, I got to tell you, um, if it happens at school, the parents need to know. End of story. Now, though, there are people out there, they'll say, well, what about abuse? Well, schools are mandatory reporters, and we have CPS for that. Jeff, but it is the rarity that a child is abused by their family, not the other way around. The state needs to think of that as a rarity and deploy resources to protect those children. But if it's happening in a school, the school needs to tell the parents about it. Now, it can stay secret, and it should stay secret. It should be just a conversation between school staff and the parents. But I'll tell you what, Jeff, if something, there is a reason why we're seeing declining enrollment in school. You're a parent. If you really believe that they were going to be hiding things about what happened to your kiddo in school, what would that do to you? How would you feel about that?
Yeah,
The
I'd be real
parents
upset.
are in charge, and they need to be in charge. They need to be respected as in charge by the schools, and it's not happening. But I think both sides are just digging their feet in the ground. This isn't a Trump thing and all that kind of stuff. We can put the federal issues aside. I guess they're related, but a transitioning male showering with females, I'll always be against. The reason I will always be against that is because, Jeff, there's probably a survivor of sexual or domestic violence in that locker room. We do not need to respect the needs and wishes of one by trampling the needs and wishes of the other. We can do special accommodations.
Yeah, we
Um,
talked a little bit about that yesterday. Not that scenario, but how if a disruptive kid is in a classroom, it's been in the past where the rest of the class will leave the room and the
yes,
disruptive student will stay in there
yes.
versus, kind of back in my back in my day, whatever, you go and you stand in the hall or you're out of the classroom.
Yeah, well, I
Don't
would
be a
just be taken out
disruptor.
in the hall and got a hack. So I was scared. The paddle scared me straight, Jeff.
That's
But
right.
well, we
Well,
don't do that anymore.
no, we don't
And
do that
and and and
anymore.
I don't know that we have to do that. And I'm not saying that we have to do that, but involving the parents as active participants in the kids' school career is absolutely imperative. And any idea that the school's going to hide anything from the parents is ridiculous. It's a non-starter for me.
Yeah.
So that is going to be a big fight. The citizens ran an initiative, and this entire legislature voted it out last year. The Parents' Bill of Rights. I think the majority party read it and found out what it meant. The superintendent of public instruction ignored the initiative altogether, sent directives out to the school districts saying they do not have to follow it. Please follow his guidance about hiding those things from parents. Um, but we should also talk about what the majority leader said. 13-year-olds have the right to make mental health decisions and reproductive decisions. I don't think they should. I never thought they should. I voted against it every time we had the opportunity. That needs to be a parental guided decision. And I'll tell you what, Jeff, the majority party says that their brains don't fully develop till they're 25 years old, so we really shouldn't hold them too accountable for things like murder and rape, because they can't make good decisions. Jeff, they can make good decisions on what drugs they take without their parents for mental illness, whether or not to have their genitalia removed. That is a guided decision until you turn 18 years old and you achieve the age of adult. That's all there is to it. I can't change this perspective that I have, and I know the district supports me by a significant majority that they want to be involved. Now, again, it can be a private conversation that the schools have. We don't have to have things leaked out in the school. As a matter of fact, it'd be just like a job there.
Sure.
If you are working with human resources on something, it's between you and human resources. The same thing should and could be adopted by our schools. But we're gonna see enrollment continue to decline if we do not fully respect the parents as um, co-equals in this educational process.
You can always get in touch with Dan when you see him at the store or if he's getting gas. Otherwise, there's websites, and I'll put the link to that. Additionally, too, now across the state, people have the opportunity to join in on these committee hearings and make their voices heard as well, which are great opportunities. Again, in person is always the best if you can, or a Zoom to make your voices heard. Handwritten letters to your representatives, and
Yep.
then email and phone calls, kind of that's how the list goes down there. But it's always a good opportunity, and it's always a good conversation with you, Dan. I know you got your pulse on the 35th and what's happening, so we'll keep our eyes on that for sure as the session continues. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Have a nice day.
You too.